regional benefits for the area with water supply, fire protection, wildlife. It supports endangered species by providing year-round water supply. It's the recreational hub of the Mendocino National Forest, and that creates an economic benefit for the region.
Lake Pillsbury Basin is unique in that it's so off the grid, and that's what so many people love about it. 300 recreational residences, an 80 family private campground, 225 campsites operated by PG&E, owned by Forest Service, volunteer fire department, the Lake Pillsbury Resort and Marina, and Soda Creek store.
So this is a map of the area showing Scott Dam, which behind that are the headwaters of the Eel River. The lake is formed by the confluence of the main stem of the Eel, which comes in from Hole Mountain and Snow Mountain that are to the north and to the east. And then the Rice Fork comes in from the south. To the north of the lake is Hole Mountain. Around the lake there are the resorts, the various residential communities, the Rice Fork on the south. You have the West Shore Campground with 80 sites there. Lake Pillsbury Ranch to the north, which has about 165 residences, about 250 lots are still yet to be built out, and the Forest Service lease lots, Lake Pillsbury home sites on the east side of the lake. Also, there are a number of public campgrounds run by PG&E and the Forest Service. There's Fuller Grove, Pogie Point, Navy Camp, Oak Flat, and Sunset Campground, as well as there's a couple boat-in sites that are intermittent around the lake itself.
I think it's important to point out too that the majority of the campsites are all at that north end of the lake. Eel River, of course, is much farther south. The communities are spread out all around the lake.
Much of the lake, especially that to the east, very limited access, no roads.
No roads.
Very limited access to the area.
There are 4 communities: Homesite Tract, the Lake Pillsbury Ranch, Rice Fork, Summer Homes, and West Shore. Communities are well developed. They are predominantly lake-based.
There are fundraisers throughout the year to support the local fire district and the community itself. There's during the weekend, on peak summer weekends, there's thousands of people in the lake basin.
Lake-based recreation, everything from SUP, stand-up paddleboards, to water skiing, wakeboarding, canoeing, kayaking,
Fishing. The water that is stored, that's as it's currently operated, which is distributed year-round through the Potter Valley Project, supports millions and millions of dollars worth of agricultural benefit for not only Potter Valley, but Alexander Valley, Sunell Valley, Ukiah Valley. And so agricultural grape community owes a lot to the year-round supply that Lake Pillsbury provides for water. And also there's about 600,000 downstream users of the water that comes out of the Potter Valley Project. And so certainly the whole development of inland Mendocino and Sonoma County, even down to Marin County, is benefited by that. I think we have some numbers. So Potter Valley Farming produces about $35 million in value per year. Mendocino County ag is based on the Russian River, including grapes, other crops, is $743 million per year that benefit from the waters that come out of the Potter Valley Project. By having this as a year-round backup water supply, there's a huge economic benefit. Keep in mind that as if the dam was removed and it was only going to be those waters coming down the Eel would only be drafted during, quote, high flows. A, that has not been defined what a high flow is, and that is not a year-round supply. It doesn't provide that extra backup storage, and to make up for that water supply, to ensure that there's water within the region, there would be hundreds of millions of dollars, if not a total of around $1 billion in alternative infrastructure that would need to be created to provide that water.
Lake Pillsbury has had a long history in fire suppression using aerial aircraft, utilizing Gravelly Airstrip right on the north shore of Pillsbury. And it was utilized for the Mendenhall fire. First air tankers ever used came out of Willows, and they were modified crop dusters to carry about 170 gallons of water. Well, they figured out real soon that the time it took for those aircraft to go back to Willows and refill, the turnaround time back to the fire was just not helping make any progress. So they switched and started drafting water out of the lake, and that drastically reduced the turnaround time and gave them an advantage over the Mendenhall fire. Since that time, it's been used on just about every fire suppression effort that's come close to the Pillsbury communities, including most recently the ranch fire in 2018 and the August complex in 2020.
Lake Pillsbury itself provides a physical barrier that slows wildfires because it's wide open, no obstruction, and there's no travel time. So there's a huge benefit there.
All the critters, the ecosystem around the lake, they're all protected by having that fire retardant resource there.
So in the event of the dam decommissioning and removal of Lake Pillsbury, logistically it's going to be a little tougher to get water up into that area. It's very remote. One of the nearest large sources of water is Lake Mendocino, and that would be about a 20-minute turnaround time, give or take, depending on the aircraft. Much larger return time than the immediate response we'd get from the lake right there.
The wildlife is extraordinary, from our beautiful, beautiful Tule elk to our bald eagles, our western pond turtles, otters, deer.
Osprey.
We've got pictures of deer, osprey feed from the lake. It's pretty incredible.
There's going to be a massive impact to the area and to the region if the water goes away. We're not even sure what will be left behind. Is it going to be a creek? Is it going to be a river? Is it going to be a pond? We're not quite sure. Things have changed over the last 100 years. We want to recreate a new destination if it goes away, because it's an important, not only a revenue for the county, but it's an important destination for people to have. It's beautiful, you're with nature. It is just one of the most amazing places you can be. How do we redevelop that to ensure that it can continue to be a destination in the future?
Mitigation measures must be implemented for Scott Dam, and they include the following. Number one, establishing fire protection measures that directly address wildfire risks resulting from removal of Scott Dam, including but not limited to measures involving fire suppression in the form of flashes on the dam. Number two, establishing water rights for the County of Lake and its residents on Scott Dam, and implementing water storage measures for the County of Lake. Number three, financial consideration equivalent to 99 years of lost County of Lake property tax collections and any and all revenue losses to result from the removal of Scott Dam. Number four, additional monetary consideration for loss of economic development opportunity in the County of Lake in preparation of an economic development action plan for the Lake Pillsbury area. Number five, full restoration and revegetation of the area, restoring flora and fauna in areas due to the loss of Scott Dam and Lake Pillsbury. Number six, constructing road and other infrastructure improvements necessary, and safely complete the decommissioning plan.
I know that there's a lot of sediment load that is kind of, for the lack of a better term, caked up against the dam as we speak. But it's definitely something that can prohibit clean water. It's something that can prohibit clean fishery areas for the salmon to spawn. If they don't do the job that's needed to ensure a quality headwater, all of that lack of quality is going to impact what everyone thinks is the most important to them, whether you're in favor of saving the fish, whether you're in favor of saving ag, or in favor of ensuring that water utility districts have potable water to provide to their people. How the water starts at the headwater makes a huge difference, and PG&E has the possibility of doing the right thing, or the possibility of leaving us with water the quality that cannot be utilized for those things.
Two-basin hopes versus two-basin solutions. We need real two-basin solutions that demonstrates concern for the headwaters of the Eel and Lake County.
I've had many constituents ask me about what the financial impacts are to Lake County surrounding the Potter Valley project and what would happen if the dam were to be decommissioned. And I think that's an important question. There actually is a more significant impact in Lake County, I think, than many people realize. Lake County would face an immediate loss of tax revenue. It's upwards of $750,000 annually that we could lose out on if Scott Dam were to be decommissioned. There's a potential loss of over $40 million in property values in that area. These are all properties where the infrastructure, the properties, the structures, everything about them built up around Lake Pillsbury being in existence. So right now, if Lake Pillsbury were to go away, if Scott Dam were to be decommissioned, we're essentially facing a catastrophic loss, a total loss of both those property values and the associated revenue. And that revenue stream doesn't just come from the secured property tax, I think, that many people think of. We have sales tax, we have occupancy tax, there's other entities that are paying taxes up there associated with the project itself. You know, all of that potentially goes away. And I think it's too early to really know the entire story there, but it really doesn't look good for Lake County in that sense. Another area where I've had a lot of questions is regarding fiscal responsibilities and what the consequences are financially of Scott Dam being decommissioned if it's truly removed as part of the FERC process. So an important point to highlight is the true cost of dam removal is really not yet known. PG&E should be responsible for the costs, but there's already efforts underway to limit their liability in this process. One of the things we've seen is that comprehensive restoration costs, when they're looked at in their totality, could actually exceed the cost of dam removal itself. If you look at it that way, adding fish passage might have actually been the cheaper option if you were to consider those cost variables. Should dam removal or restoration efforts not be as successful as hoped, Lake County, a rural county with limited resources, faces not just that loss of revenue that we discussed, but that loss of property values. Lake County is responsible for providing services for its constituents, for its people, and depending on what happens in Lake Pillsbury, this can result in an increased burden on the county and its limited resources, while at the same time we're trying to contend with the decrease in revenue and loss of assets in the area. So this just creates an incredible burden on a county that's already strained to provide these resources.
If Scott Dam is decommissioned, Lake County must be kept whole.